Hi, buddy. Michael here, Guardians of the United Kingdom. Today, I just want to do a video talking about Tommy Robertson United Kingdom rally, talking about the doom mongers and expanding on a few things. So, I want to start off with the United Kingdom rally, and I believe it was a great success. And one thing I have been saying, and the reasons I set up this YouTube channel, is that we need a spiritual and cultural revolution. And one of the reasons I haven't been doing any videos recently is I've been focusing on the spiritual side. And one thing I've realized after watching this event and a lot of the reaction, a lot of things happening, is that I think the United Kingdom movement is the cultural revolution that we've been waiting for. And it's not all just about Tommy Robinson. If you look at all the people who attended, it's Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk was there, Carl Benjamin, Katie Hopkins, Ant Middleton, Ben Habib. I'm sure that the likes of Rupert Lowe and many, many other people support the movement, as well as what you saw. I don't know if it was around 1 million English people, British people. And the more I speak to people in the real world, the more they're waking up and realizing that they've been lied to by the media. And I do believe it is a good thing and a positive thing. And one thing I want to touch on is all the naysayers. There are some naysayers, even some within nationalist and sort of the dissident right, they call themselves, communities, who there's a certain group of people who never take any action. They just want to criticize people who do. And their whole shtick is being a YouTuber and monetizing their content, but they don't provide any solutions or take any actions to serve the country. They just want to seem like the smartest person in the room and tell people to subscribe to their content so that they can make money. It's a giant grift. And yet they accuse Tommy Robinson of being a grifter. But one of the main criticisms I hear is that it doesn't do anything. You know, it's the populist delusion, and that in elite theory, you know, a small organized minority will always overcome disorganized majority. And they see the elites in our country, like the Labour and the globalists and all this lot, they say they're the organized elite, and that the disorganized Tommy louts are never going to do anything. It's just pointless protest. And whilst I do agree somewhat that yes, a small organized majority will always have an advantage, to suggest that these rallies and United Kingdom and all the pressure being put on the establishment isn't having any good product from it is a lie. And I made a comparison. If you watch the Gladiator, Russell Crowe is put into slavery. He used to be, I think, a leader of the army, but he was put into slavery by the corrupt emperor. So the corrupt emperor would be like Keir Starmer and the regime, and Tommy Robinson would be the gladiator. And you think that Tommy's just some stupid working class boy. This is their narrative, not mine. They think he's just some stupid working class lout, and that the elites couldn't care less about this stupid little lout. But this is exactly what happened in Gladiator. You know, even Maximus said, "What can I do? I'm just a slave." But what happened was the slave won the crowd. And then all of a sudden, the crowd loved him, and the emperor started losing credibility among the people and the love of the people. And the people loved Gladiator. And in the end, he won out. And that's what's happening with Keir Starmer. Whilst you may say, oh, they don't care. But when Tommy Robinson and the working class people can get 1 million people on the streets, that's going to delegitimize the regime. When England football team that everybody is obsessed with in this country, when they're playing at Wembley and the whole crowd are singing Keir Starmer's a wanker, that's delegitimizing the regime. When all over the country, England flags are being put up as an act of defiance against the globalists, of which Keir Starmer is the puppet, it delegitimizes the regime. And not only that, what it does is it enables a new counter elite to form. So when you've got, now you can say, yeah, well, it's just a bunch of working class led by Tommy. What are they going to do? Well, they're delegitimizing the regime. And then within that movement, there's people involved. You've got the richest man in the world called in, Elon Musk. You've got new political parties forming, such as, not Reform, they're useless, such as Ben Habib and Advance, such as Restore Britain. You've got a lot of the top social media content people, such as Lotus Eaters, Katie Hopkins. You've got a lot of them involved. You've got a lot of military people like Ant Middleton, who wants to become mayor of London, involved. So you can see a new counter elite forming. So it makes it more plausible that a movement, even that could happen, say, the Conservative Party. Let's say just randomly Rupert Lowe became leader, and then he brought in Dominic Cummings and Suella Braverman, all these ones who said that they couldn't do their job. If they were forced to do their job properly now, and that they took the right actions, and that they were pulled more to the sensible right rather than being pulled to the left, and they got rid of all the leftists in the Tory party, because they're essentially a leftist party. If they got rid of all them and all the woke nonsense, and they become a real patriotic conservative party led by Rupert Lowe and maybe Cummings, coming up with all the plans to remove the civil service and leave the European courts of human rights so we can get rid of all these illegals, that would have a positive impact. So it makes new elite forming more likely by having this Unite the Kingdom movement. Okay, so I do believe it is a very, very positive movement, and positive things are happening. And I want to finish the video just with a few things that I think the movement needs to be wary of, because I focus mostly on the spiritual side. I have another YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to it, Flash to the Father, I'll put a link in the description. But I really focus on the spiritual thing. I've been doing it for 15 years. So without sounding braggadocious, I consider myself an expert on it. And when you truly are born again of the Spirit, you almost have, this may seem more dramatic, but it's like you get a gift of prophecy. And it's not like you're some great prophet, but you can just see things coming. And I did a video maybe a couple of months ago criticizing commies, some positive criticism or constructive criticism after he knocked that guy out. Essentially, he had to do it, so it makes sense. But my criticism was that they need to be smart, and that you shouldn't be walking around London on your own, because people are going to try and attack you, and that you need to be smart and wise up. And it wasn't to say that I dislike him and all this stuff. I'm saying I like him, I support him, but they also need to be wise and smart, and you can't be walking around London on your own. And it's kind of proved right with the events of the last week. We saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. You know, we have to understand we're dealing with psychopaths. And if you saw what happened to Charlie Kirk, what do you think would happen to Tommy if some, thug in London, or an Islamist walking around? We know the knife crime in London. They see him, they got the opportunity, and they think, I can go and end his life in a second. He needs to make sure he has protection when he's in dangerous areas. And with that being said, moving forward, some things that I can see happening, that my advice, take it or leave it as you want from a spiritual point of view. One thing would be to the United Kingdom movement is to stop being so apologetic and turning into the Tory party, where you have to keep saying every 5 minutes, look, we're not racist. You don't need to prove anything. Anybody with common sense knows that it's not a racist movement. But what happens is, you'll end up like the Tory party if you constantly become apologetic and saying, look, we've got some black people, we've got some ex-Muslims, we've got this, we've got that. Yes, that's good that they're in the movement, but you don't need to keep apologizing for being English and being white. Just focus on unity, and don't do what the Tories do. Keep going on about, oh, look how unracist we are. Just be proud of being English, and that we're happy that we have these ethnically different people involved. And I say that because I'm not trying to say that they're not English. If they've been born here and they feel English, I'm happy to have them as a part of our tribe, even if they're not ethnically English. And that's nothing like racist or bad against them. It's the same as in, I've got family friends who grew up in England and they moved to Australia, and they feel Australian, but to me, they're still ethnically English. They're not Australian, even though they are Australian by the fact that they live there and they feel Australian. So it's nothing to do with race. We're all white English, white Australians in modern terms, obviously forgetting about the Aborigines and all that. But so it's not about race. It's purely, the way I see things is, ethnicity determines your race and nationality, but also the place you're born and the culture also partly determines your nationality. So I have no problem if somebody, is ethnically Jamaican, but feels English because they're born here. I have no problem with that. Or I celebrate that in a way. But anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds and all that too much. The second point I also want to say is that when you in the Spirit, you can see things happening. And at the moment, what I see happening, and I think everybody can see it, is all this talk of civil war. What everybody's waiting for is a big event to happen, say as a terrorist attack. And they're waiting to explode with anger. So they want an Islamist to go and cause a mass casualty event, and then the feeling is the English can go and riot on the streets and fight back against this, and people are waiting for it. And what I suggest happens is maybe people within the United Kingdom movement need to come up with a plan, because we're not going to defeat evil with the power of the fist. We need to do it with the power of the spirit. And there needs to be a plan in place to, when there's another mass casualty event, we need plans for what happens. So my plans would be, don't go out on the streets and cause violence. Now, don't do anything that's going to cause more trouble. You got to be wiser than that. So don't go around attacking a load of mosques and all that stuff pointlessly, because it's not going to achieve anything. Ultimately, if we want to achieve our goal, we've got to be sensible, like a boxer. If you act out of anger, you're going to get knocked out. If you have a plan and you stick to it, and you've got the skills and the wisdom, then you'll win the fight. So I'd say if there's another mass casualty event, rather than going and being stupid, everybody has a national strike organised for a day in the following weeks, even to the point of pulling your children out of school. So one day, all the children don't turn up to school, everybody don't turn up to work. Or I suggest a really good way would be a weekend is nobody turn up to the football. Imagine how annoying it would be for the establishment and delegitimizing them if nobody turns up and we have a campaign of stop Islamic terrorism or stop leftist terrorism. These sort of things are going to have an impact and help our cause, rather than just going out and being angry, rioting pointlessly on the streets. And there's loads of good things that I see people doing, such as the raise the flag is a great idea because it puts pressure and it's a show of strength from the English people. After the Charlie Kirk event, I've seen a lot of people on the left celebrating what happened. And the good thing is the sensible people are fighting back, because every single person who's posted nefarious content celebrating it, if we report them to their employers, they're going to lose their jobs. So we're putting pressure on them, fighting back all the time. And we need to put pressure on the Conservative and Reform to move to the right, not moving to appease the left, to move to the right. So all of these things that the United Kingdom and people are doing are fantastic. And we just need to follow the wise leaders in the movement. And I want to finish the video with one little warning, because there's another thing I see happening, is that we're seeing a genuine rise of the actual legitimate far right. And I'm talking about National Socialist types. I see it on X and YouTube, and I define them as they are literal National Socialists, hardcore ethno-nationalists. They're the types who, they don't want to stop all the illegals and have a sensible migration plan. They literally want to deport all non-whites, even 50% mixed race people. And they have an obsession with the Jews and Israel. You know, all the ones I followed, all they do is go on about the Jews and Israel. And that is just a tired old conspiracy. Once you really look deeply into the matters, you understand that they're just tired conspiracies that have been around for centuries. Most of them born out of religious hatred, because within the two main world religions of Christianity and Islam, the Jews are seen as the bad guys. And this has caused a lot of persecution of the Jews, of which the National Socialists fell for, and all modern day people who hate them, they've all fallen for it, such as Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes. You know, these are the sort of people pushing this narrative, and it's all false, all lies. And once you're a spiritual expert, you'll understand that. And the sad thing is, I'm seeing a lot of youth being radicalized to the far right, and a lot of them think that the answer to the far left is the far right. So the answer to the communism is National Socialism. But this is the mistake they made in the 30s, because they're both evil, and you cannot overcome evil with evil. You can only overcome evil with good. So the answer to the far left isn't the far right. The answer isn't left or right. The answer is to resurrect and to transcend all of that stupid political stuff and resurrect upwards towards Christ, the spiritual truth of Christ, and towards our loving God the Father. And that is the good that can overcome evil. If you have National Socialists and Communists fighting each other, it's just evil, evil, evil. But when we transcend, and I prefer patriotic conservatism, that's what my vision for the country. So you'd have a Rupert Lowe or a Ben Habib type in charge of the politics. So you'd have free markets, sensible, patriotic conservatism, where, yes, we would protect the English people. So in all nations, we should have like 80, 90% native people with a small amount for migration. That should be the policy of all countries, I believe. And then you would have a spiritual movement of what I would like is to reform Christianity into a mystical version of Christianity based on spiritual truth rather than false religious dogma. And then the country would be amazing because you'd have people like Christ in charge with the light of God within charge of them, in charge of the church. You'd have a political movement by patriotic, Christ-following conservatives. And then the country will be amazing. Okay, so that's pretty much sums up my thoughts on this subject. I haven't been doing many videos because, as I said, I'm looking for a cultural movement or something to come along. I'm trying to start one myself, but I mean, the United Kingdom one is perfect. So I'm focusing on the spiritual content. This channel will probably be more focused on a spiritual movement within the UK. And what I've also realized is that we can't do it just as one country. It's going to need a worldwide effort, and that will take a spiritual revolution throughout the world. Because let's say that in the UK, we overcome the globalists, but they control the whole of Europe and they've overcome America, then we're screwed. So we need to win every country in the world and have patriotic nationalism in all countries to defeat the globalists. And this is what I believe that the United Kingdom movement understands. And that's why I support it. And I will leave them to do that and advise people to stick with that movement. And if you're interested in real spiritual truth and that I believe is far better than all the religious people, then stay tuned and go and subscribe to my Flesh to the Father channel in the description. I don't believe anybody is really speaking this spiritual wisdom that I'm talking of. And I've been doing this 15 years without blowing my own trumpet. But I believe that's where my talent lies, and I'm in it to serve God and help the people. I'm not a grifter. I don't think, well, I'll never monetize my YouTube channels for personal gain. If I ever monetize my YouTube channels, it will be as part of a charity to give back. So this is not some grift. You know, as Jesus said, as I've been given everything for free, all this knowledge and wisdom for free, so I'll give it for free. And that's my goal, because I'm serving the Spirit of God, not my own ego for fame and finances. Okay, so I hope everybody as well. Stay positive. I know the world is in darkness, but we have to be the light. And I do believe that positive things are happening, and that if we follow the Spirit, everything will be good and we will win the battle. And we don't need to fall for anger and egotistical powers of the fist. We need the power of the Spirit. Okay, God bless everybody. Subscribe if you're new and you like what I'm talking about. Like the video, share it with as many British people as you can, because I believe this is an important message. And God bless everybody. Goodbye.